Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. Do us a favor, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell for notifications, upvote the video, and comment down below. Also, join our Subtext community. The link to do it is in the description down below, and we will have a special unlisted live stream following the Grow Bowl exclusively for subscribers in our Subtext community. I'm here with Tom Vanderford for our weekly segment on Ole Miss football. It's Grow Bowl weekend, Tom.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I not physically able to go just yet, but I should be ready by the football season. But I will put it on SEC Network Plus and watch it and critique it and rewind it and all that good fun stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And we play Mercer and we play during the season, and you're counting down to a date of something that actually means more football. The spring game's a little bit different, as then it symbolizes the end of football for like 4 months. And it can be a very sad thing. I'm hoping the transfer portal adds a little bit to it. I hope Chris Beard does well in the portal. That'll get us to mid-May. I'm not having a whole lot of confidence in our baseball program at the moment. But we'll see what happens, because it's looking like June and July is going to be a whole lot of history lessons from Steve on the podcast.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mentioned to one of my friends that's a big baseball fan at Ole Miss, and I think he's got season tickets for baseball, that if we had Mallets and Elliott and man, the other one just escapes me.
Maddox.
The kid that Maddox, yeah,
Yeah.
Riley Maddox. If we had all three of those guys, it would be a different team. I think that your pitching depth isn't there when your closer against Alcorn State is your best power hitter. That you've got some depth problems at pitcher. Kemp Alderman closed the game out against Alcorn State. So they just, God bless it, they're having a rough year. I've got a state friend, and I said, it's amazing. It's kind of like what happened to them after their national championship. They just lost pitcher after pitcher after pitcher, and we've recently lost another pitcher. So your pitching is so extremely important in SEC play. You can get away with it like we did at the first of the year when we weren't playing SEC teams. If we're in the Big Ten, we'd be doing great. Mm-hmm. But we're not. We're in the SEC. But, I hate to use Bianco's famous term, but it's baseball. Anything can happen. You never know. I'm kind of freaking out about Maddox, because I saw him in a video as the season was starting saying that he thought he'd be good to go, and then I haven't heard anything. So,
yeah, I think they're just being overly careful with him, honestly.
Wonderful. I want them to be that way, because both those kids have a shot at the next level. Mallets would have really helped this year. And, having those guys, you'd have the freedom to move people around. But that's hurt us. And our bats have went silent at times, and that hasn't helped. But overall, I think that pitching's the big thing. But moving along to basketball just real quick, man, I am impressed with Beard.
Yeah.
He's combing the country. He's got the kid coming in from North Texas. Or he's going to see him. I don't know if the 5-star point guard from Texas that he recruited, I don't know if we're in on him or not. But the kid from Georgetown's a extremely solid pickup, and the center that we may get that's been crystal balled to us 7-3
Mm-hmm.
is supposed to be pretty good. I think he led the nation in block shots. So and he's doing it, man. He's obviously a good recruiter because they said that the 7-3 guy was a lock to go to Missouri, which made the tournament this year. So I think we're going to get better in basketball. I think has gotten a couple of ladies out of the portal that'll help us next year. But let's talk about the big one. Let's talk about football.
Well, real quick,
Uh,
just before I got on the here with you, it was announced that Musa Cisse has had a Zoom with Chris Beard. He's a big man out of Memphis that plays for Oklahoma State, or is transferring from there. So I mean, he was a
oh,
former 5-star, top 20 player in the country. So
yeah.
that's a big deal as well. But you're right. Let's talk about Grow Ball. What position matchups have your attention in Oxford tomorrow or today? Because you're going to air as a standalone on Saturday morning.
Well, exactly. So the position matchups that I want to see, it always starts with the big uglies. I want to see the offensive line versus the defensive line. I want to see some pressure on our quarterbacks. I really do. Because I think we've got a good offensive line. But I really want to see the 4-2-5, see if that helps. I don't think they'll show a lot. People forget that usually the spring game's very vanilla. And if you see somebody that you've never heard of have an awesome spring game, that doesn't necessarily translate into the next season. That's one thing I would caution people on. If you see a running back you've never heard of break 2 or 3 long touchdowns, that doesn't mean that they're going to be in the rotation next year. It's more of a scrimmage and to find out what we have. Now, saying that, I'm also concerned with how our linebackers do in the run game. I want our defensive line to be able to let our backers make tackles at the line of scrimmage. Now, I also want our defensive line to make tackles at the line of scrimmage. Another thing that I'm interested in, just because there are a lot of new faces, especially for the spring game where some people are out, I want to see how our tight ends and receivers do against the linebackers in the secondary.
Yeah.
We've got our secondary is going to be very much different than it was last year. We're going to have a lot of new faces back there in the spring game. And we're going to have a lot of new faces on offense. I want to see how Priestcorn does. I want to see, something people are forgetting because he just fell off of the wagon, but Jalen Knox. I didn't even know he was with the team anymore. He had the 1 year we had to redshirt because he had some academic issues. And then last year, I think he got hurt. And he's doing great. Bentley, who got hurt last year, is from what I've heard doing great. We're gonna have Quinshon Judkins, we're gonna have Ulysses Bentley the fourth, and we've got Kendrick Riscano. So we're gonna be deep at running back. Now we don't have Riscano yet, but it's there. I guess all the people we lost, I want to see how the replacements play. I want to see how those corners play. I hear good things about the kid we brought in from Georgia Tech. That's wonderful. I want to see how these safeties play. I want to see how
Tom has obviously got a
see how
text.
Taylor.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry about that. I want to see how Taylor Gross plays.
Hmm.
I want to see how some of these other young DBs that we've had in the system for a year or two play. And I want to see just how familiar they are, and it won't be super familiar with Pete Golding's system. but I'd like to see the defense rush to the ball. I want to see some really good, stable running and passing. I don't think there'll, all spring games are vanilla, but I just want to see if the fundamentals are good.
Yeah, defensively,
Now,
I think I want to see no receivers catching a TD pass open by 30 yards. I want the defensive player
yeah,
in the right place. I want to see them
yep,
rallying to the football. I want to see
yep.
them getting pressure in a unique way. I realize they're going to be vanilla, and there's a chance that we won't see that, but I want to see that. Offensively, I want Jackson Dart to just look like he's in control. After the spring
I
game
agree.
he had last year, I want him to end the spring on a good note. And just to help him going into the summer and into the fall. I don't care about stats. I don't care about scores. It's all about the eyeball test in a spring game to me.
I completely agree. I know I read something the other day that made me feel good. They said that for the entire spring, he's only thrown one pick.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
pretty darn good.
Now,
That
has he only thrown one pick because he's avoided the middle of the field? I mean, that's the
God,
stuff I want to see too. That's part of how Jackson looks is using the whole field.
exactly. I completely agree with that. I completely now talking about because I know we're probably running short on time. Let's go to the portal.
Okay.
Um, I, I don't know if there are some folks that would be the right fit, but I have noticed, we've had a couple of young kids in the portal who were of the class of 22 out of Texas, a rush end and a linebacker. Now, they probably going to go to A&M or somebody, but I found that interesting. I found it interesting that there are some viable people in the portal from other schools that weren't in the first period. So that may be something they look at if they see somebody that they think is a good fit. I don't remember where the kid's from. Oh, the center from Texas A&M that was freshman All-American. He's in the portal. Now, he may very well be going to Texas or somewhere closer, but I found that intriguing. So at the same time, there are going to be kids on our team that enter the portal after spring. They're going to be like, well, I'm still buried on the depth chart at Ole Miss. I want to play. I'm going to see if there's any interest in the portal.
Yeah, we'll have to see the wide
So,
receiver position
yeah,
because of what's going on in practice. I do expect one or two to get in the portal from wide receiver. Heck, Braylon Brown got into the portal before spring, but now they're using him as a slot receiver, so that provides a little bit of cover. But I do think defensively, there are just some players that it's just clunky fits. It's not they're not going to be able to be their best version of themselves because they do not fit the system. And so they're going to find some place that they will. It's not that they're giving up. It's not that they're quitting. It's just that you have to do what's best for you. I mean, everybody
right.
has to do, yeah. And so we'll see a little bit of that defensively. I mean, I would not be surprised, and I've heard nothing about this, but like a defensive back like not Taishim, Isheem Young, if he is falling down, he's a name that might start wondering a little bit. Now, I have heard nothing. I know nothing about that, but that's just an example of somebody that was brought in to play a certain type of defense. Now this defense has completely changed, and that also affects how well he can adapt to the defense. So him as an example, that's all I was doing, was just using an
Yeah,
example.
another Tennyson. Although I don't think Tennyson's going to leave,
Mm,
Tennyson might be another example.
yeah.
He was brought in to play a certain position, and he did a good job. Now, does he fit in the 4-2-5? He very well may. So those are some of the things that I would be looking at. Also, the fits and like you said, I don't want to see any blown coverages.
Mhm.
But I would love to see, like I've seen in some of the highlights from the spring, our DB is completely blanketed the receiver, and the pass is perfectly in the receiver's hands. I've seen 12 and 15, which I think are Marshall and Henry, in some spots making some pretty good catches. So it just it's going to be really interesting. It's going to be really interesting. But I do look for some people to enter the portal after the spring.
One of the videos that Ole Miss football put out on Twitter, you had a pass from Jackson Dart to Chris Marshall, and it was just an absolute perfect pass because Marshall was covered up. It was in between double coverage. It was a hole shot. And he put it exactly where he had to put it and ended up with a 35, 40-yard gain. And stuff like that gives me hope. And like I said, I still want to see him the middle of the field. That donut-sized hole in the middle of the field, we have to affect linebackers with this offensive team. And part of that is the pass game in the middle of the field. But outside, it just looks like it's supposed to, honestly.
Yeah, it does. And I, I played a lot of positions in high school, and one year I forget what year it was. I think it was my freshman year. I played tight end, and we made some money just dragging me in behind the linebackers. And I think that Priestcorn is the kind of guy that we can make some money over the middle. I think our line's got to give enough time for that to happen. And I think our coaching staff has to be confident enough in our quarterback to make that happen. I'm not so sure that last year a lot of that lack of throwing over the middle was because they tried it in practice and it might not have worked so well.
Yeah.
But this year, none of us, I haven't been in any practices, so I don't know. But the little I can get from people within the program is that he's a totally different person this year.
Yeah.
He's stronger, faster, he's bigger, and he's more confident.
Yeah,
than he was.
And Saturday we get to see him finally.
I think so. I think so. Now, I'd like to see our future number 7.
Oh yeah.
See what Sanders has. But this is just my opinion. This is opinion show, right? Jackson Dart is QB1, and unless something happens to him injury wise, I think he'll be QB1 all year long. But it's really good to know that if something does happen to him, you've got a 4-year starter from Oklahoma State who's a really good runner, and you've got, from everything I've heard, an awesome redshirt freshman that, on your program you've even heard has a shotgun for an arm, and, he's pretty darn impressive. So that gives me hope for.
I've heard a 3-letter comparison for people that have watched him in practice. People go out there and say, he looks like Eli.
Yeah.
And whenever somebody said that, my ears just perked straight up because I am so looking forward to seeing this person with my own eyes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I would love to have.
Yeah.
I think the thing might be better than Eli with, though, is I think he can run the ball too.
Yeah, the problem that he has is he's 6'1". So that limits him a little bit. But his arm, they say he probably has the strongest arm on the team, and he probably has the most accurate arm on the team. And you put those two things together, he's going to be all right.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad we got him.
Yeah, and it's one of those things to where for some reason this season doesn't go the way that we're expecting. Midway through it, maybe it's time to just make that change and get ready for 2024.
That's true. That's true. And I don't want that to happen, but I'm not the coach, and I feel confident that Kiffin's going to do whatever he can to position himself to have success. So you're right. If it's you never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to happen. I gave up a long time ago on trying to predict things. Before this baseball season, I said, "Hey, man, we've got a shot to be just as good, if not better, than we were last year."
Then everybody got
And
hurt.
got hurt. So you never know.
Yeah. Well, before I get out of here tonight, Friday night, there's a crossover I did with Chris Gordy. And the third segment of it, it's like a 30-minute video. It's like a full show that's going to air Friday night. And he goes game by game for Ole Miss in 2023. It's the first time I've done this. And I started to go,
That's awesome.
and I think I got 9-3 out of it. And then I was sitting there listening to him, and I was like, okay, I can honestly show you how Ole Miss can beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa. I'm not saying they will. I can tell you how they will do it, but I can also tell you how they would lose to Tulane. So that means this summer is going to be absolutely nuts. I do think Lane Kiffin makes $9 million a year. 9 should be the number that is the floor of this program at all time. If you hit below that, I think you have explaining to do.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
You get paid the big bucks for a reason. Make it happen.
Yeah.
And
anyway,
I can see that in his recruiting in state this year. He's gonna. It's just my opinion, but I think he's gonna mop up. I think we get 6, 7 of the top 10 in the state in 2024.
Yeah, Jamonte Waller just got ranked by ESPN. They just released their ESPN 300, 16th player in the country, 5-star. So.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yeah, he's going to be huge, and he's a prototypical Jack, which you know from earlier in the show why that is important. Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. Make sure you check out our brand new podcast, Locked On College Basketball. Everything you need to know about college basketball in one place. Plus, you get to hear from big name experts, insiders, coaches, and players. It's Locked On College Basketball. It's available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. Tom, thank you so much for stopping by. I always look forward to this every week. We're going to release you Saturday morning as a standalone, and we're going to put you on Friday's Locked On Ole Miss podcast. And John Garcia is going to move to Sunday, just because I wanted to talk a little bit about Grove Bowl, and it wouldn't make sense to put you on Sunday, honestly.
Right. Sounds good, buddy.
All right. Take care, man.
Yeah, take care. Hotty toddy.
Hotty toddy.